Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and call this kickoff workshop to order. We do want to recognize the absence of Commissioner Clark, who's on his way, and the Commissioner Martin, who is not going to be able to join us tonight, but they can certainly watch the video afterwards. With that, Dallas, take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. As the Mayor mentioned, this is our kickoff / governmental funds workshop, kind of combining the both. We had a little bit of a late start on the budget this year, primarily due to the state's budget not being adopted until just a couple of weeks ago. So we are still working through state estimates. As a reminder, the difference between your governmental and proprietary funds. Your proprietary funds are essentially all of your utilities and internal service funds, and then your governmental funds are everything else. So that includes your general fund, which pays for the majority of your government services, your fire department, streets and roads, finance, HR, planning, recreation, all those good things. And then we have several different funds in the governmental category, special revenue funds that account for your wild spaces fund, your infrastructure sales surtax funds, and your impact fees. We have several capital project funds, which account for large capital projects, currently City Hall, and then a debt service fund as well that we will be discussing tonight. So in terms of what we're looking for feedback on tonight, our commission considerations, as always, are revenue diversification options, looking for feedback on the millage rate. The proposed budget is balanced at a 5.90000 mill rate, which is the same rate as you adopted last year. The commission will be setting the preliminary millage rate at your next city commission meeting next week. Remember, that is the cap. That's the highest that you can adopt and will be advertised in your trim notices. Commission always has the option to reduce that at the budget hearings in September. We'll be talking about staffing levels. We will not be talking about the compensation study, minimum wage amendment, and then our capital improvement program. You got a pen?
Help a man out.
Somebody stole all mine.
Okay. This will be a great shock to the City Commission, but if you did not know, our population is growing. As of April of last year, our population was 8,500. As a reminder, that's April of 2023. We don't have the 2024 estimates yet, but based off of building permits issued and the rate of growth, staff anticipates that we're currently somewhere just north of 9,000 residents here in the city of Newberry. Looking at our population projections for 2025 at a healthy growth rate of 5%, we are estimated to be at just shy of 9,400 residents. We believe we will be at or above that population in 2025. So we are outpacing most cities our size in terms of growth and growing at a very healthy speed. Moving into your general fund. As I mentioned, your general fund is balanced at 5.90000 property tax rate. Your total general fund budget this year is just shy of $12 million. That's up from $10.6 million last year. There's a couple of reasons for this increase. Obviously, we had an increase in our ad valorem tax base, the new solid waste rates that the commission adopted based off of the new solid waste charges. We have an increase in permit fees, and then the fire assessment increase that the commission adopted at the last meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to point out that with the budget as proposed, we have a $79 balance left over, and that we're going to spend the bulk of our 4 workshops discussing what to do with the $79.
Krispy Kreme donuts.
I was thinking Iliano's coffee.
That'll work.
Get through the workshops.
Sweets
right?
and treats.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, with the revenue increase comes expenditure increases. Right off the top of the bat, a good portion of that tax base increase was inside of your CRA, which means we have to transfer that revenue from the general fund into the CRA. Commiserate with the solid waste rate increases for what the city's charging. We're being charged more by our hauler, so we have an increase in solid waste fees. The fire union wage increase is going into its second year. We split up those increases across 2 years, so there's a pretty substantial increase in your fire department salaries and fringe to pay for those union increases. We have employee wage increases. We have one unnamed long-term employee who plans on retiring next year, whose payout is budgeted. Won't name any names, Judy. There are several new positions proposed in the budget, and then we have the debt service on the city hall. Included in the budget is a contingency fund of $22,500, reduced from the $45,000 we have in this year's budget, but there is still a little bit of contingency left. And I do want to note, on the current year FY 2024 budget, there is a large decrease in fund balance. That is all the use of our existing reserves for capital improvement projects throughout the city. The city maintains its reserves at the fund balance that the city commission has adopted.
Someone retired, don't they have to get approval from the commission?
Unfortunately, no.
We can update the.
You could change the policy, yeah.
Yeah.
We can adopt an indentured servitude policy here in the city of Newberry. So to remind the commission on your millage rate, for the last 8 consecutive years, the commission has maintained the same millage rate or lowered its millage rate. So the last 2 years, we have lowered the millage rate from the 5.99999 to 5.9 flat. And the only major increase the commission has seen over the last 10 years was the switch from the law enforcement MSTU into the law enforcement contract. Taxable property values. Our property values are increasing very well. We had a 16% increase in taxable values this year, so we're just over $800 million in taxable value now. Last year, we were just shy of $700 million. So speaking of the millage, like I said, we're preliminary gross taxable value is just over $800 million, increased from just under $700 million last year. The Save Our Homes cap this year is 3%. Your preliminary rolled back millage rate is a 5.7182. A reminder to the commission, that's the millage rate that would generate you the same level of funding as you received last year. The adjusted millage rate, which includes adjustments for essentially the CPI, is a 5.9882. So that's what the state says your millage rate would be if you wanted to keep the inflationary factors the same. And then if the commission so chose to increase or decrease the millage, you have the chart here. So for each 1 mil that you increase the millage, you generate an extra $800,000 in revenue, which would have about a $110 effect on the average homeowner.
And Dallas, if the commission wants to address Southwest 46, it's a half a mil?
We have a whole slide on it. It's just north of 0.6 mils.
Okay.
As a reminder to the commission, in the state of Florida, we do have Save Our Homes. Save Our Homes limits the amount that your property taxable value can increase year over year to either 3% or the CPI, whichever is lower. This year it is 3%. The impact of Save Our Homes on the city's budget is pretty substantial. It does compound year after year. You can see a chart at the bottom here that shows that over the course of 3 years, a house that's valued at $150,000 after just 3 years could have almost $11,000 of value untaxed from Save Our Homes. So at Newberry, we currently estimate that that's about $260,000 of revenue we don't receive in property taxes from Save Our Homes. And a note on that, there is a constitutional amendment on the ballot this year, Amendment number 5, which would increase the homestead exemption allowance, tie it to the CPI. Currently, it's effectively $50,000. But if that constitutional amendment passed, that $50,000 would increase every year. So we would also see reductions in our taxable values in our property tax revenue.
We know how much revenue property is going to generate?
Turn your mic on there, Commissioner.
We've calculated it several times, but I don't remember. It is a healthy amount, but I don't remember.
It was like 160.
Yeah, it's a couple 100,000, 200, 160, somewhere in there, but it won't hit. The earliest it could hit would be fiscal year 26. Most likely will hit in fiscal year 27 based off the tax calendar.
Dallas, do you recall, did the state legislature, when they were announcing a proposal to reduce the cities and the county's ability to raise revenues by the proposal that you just mentioned, did they also reference a reduction in sales tax rate so that the state would see a corresponding reduction in revenues?
Mr. Manager, the answer to that question is yes, the state did reduce their sales tax rate, which is not the answer you wanted.
Next time I'll do better.
Unfortunately, the way they have reduced some certain sales taxes also affects us because we receive a portion of those sales taxes, so they still hurt us when they did it. The state has also implemented a number of sales tax freedom weeks, which has also reduced our sales tax revenue. Sorry.
Yeah, next time I'll coordinate that with you.
Tax dollar distribution. So as we all know, we get that lovely tax bill in the mail in November, and it has one big lump sum on it. That tax bill funds a number of different agencies, so it's important for our residents to remember that when you get the tax bill for $3,000, that the city of Newberry is not receiving that $3,000. It is split amongst a variety of taxing agencies, with the majority going to the county and the school board, a portion going to the library district and the children's trust and the river water management district, and just about a quarter of that tax bill comes to the city of Newberry for the services we offer. Millage rate comparison. The city of Newberry is currently offering the third lowest millage rate in the county and the lowest amongst the full-service cities. So we're at number 3, just below Alachua, fairly substantially below Gainesville, and very substantially below High Springs. So kudos to the commission for maintaining a low tax rate and offering a high level of service compared to our peers.
Geez, look at Waldo.
In a fire assessment comparison, the city of Newberry is pretty reasonable. We have the lowest compared to High Springs and Alachua County. Gainesville's fire assessment is very complicated and very confusing. If you do the math, it should be $132, but I'll tell you that my house is valued less than $285,000. I pay a bunch more than $132 on fire assessment. So, but compared to the county and High Springs, we're lower. On our non-residential, we're about in the middle of the pack. High Springs has lower rates on non-residential just due to their call loading. As the commission will remember, a lot of it has to do with who's demanding services and who's not. High Springs runs a lot more BLS calls than we do. Commission should be sick and tired of this slide. It's been in every presentation on budget I've done for the last decade.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's great. Well, we'll go really in depth on what special assessments mean, Mr. Mayor. So as a reminder to the commission, you do have several revenue diversification options. The first is your utility tax on water. A number of years ago, the commission did adopt a 6% water sales tax. You do have the option to go up to 10%. That additional 4%, each percent would generate about $6,600. So about $25,000 total if you went to the full 10%. There are a number of special assessments that the city can adopt. Obviously, you have one for fire protection. You can also adopt them for street improvements, water and wastewater extensions and improvements. There is a stormwater assessment being developed right now. There's also the option for downtown redevelopment and parks and recreation assessments.
Dallas, remind us what the difference between a special assessment for street improvements and impact fees that go to the streets and roads.
So a special assessment assesses all property owners in the district until such
Can
time.
the district be the entire city?
The district can be the entire city, or it can be a limited district. All residents pay that assessment, whether new or old, on their tax bill annually. An impact fee is collected one time at the time of development of the property. So it's usually new residents who are paying the impact fee or developers who are paying the impact fee. Impact fees are primarily used to build capacity and build improvements due to the increase in population. Special assessments can be used both for purchasing capital, building improvements, and for maintenance and ongoing operations of whatever their assessment's for. For example, the fire assessment pays for ongoing operations in your fire department. On your expenses side, here's just a quick overview of your currently adopted 2024 budget, just to remind the commission of where you're spending your tax dollars. As always, the majority of the city's tax dollars do go to public safety. That includes your fire department, your law enforcement services agreement, and your building department and code enforcement. The next largest portion goes to the general government. That kind of funds everything else that's not mentioned here. So finance, HR, legal, the commission, attorney, clerk, planning, all those facilities, those sorts of things. And then your next largest expenditure is on transportation. Breaking it up further, if you wanted to look at not by department, but by use, the largest portion of your budget dollars do go to your personnel expenses. 45% go to personnel expenses, 35% go into operations, and then we spend about 18% on capital outlay, capital improvements in the general fund. So moving on to personnel, Florida retirement system was very generous this year, did not have any major increases. In fact, the increase across the city was less than $5,000, and that was good news. Our conversations with our health insurance company have been positive. We have received a quote for about 9%, but we're confident that we can lower that to at least 7%. So it's a pretty minimal health insurance increase, especially compared to last year, which you may recall we were having in the 40% increases for health insurance. We do have the second year of the fire union agreement, which will move our firefighters up to very competitive wages. In terms of compensation, this year we are proposing a merit increase of up to 4% and a COLA raise of 2%. We are proposing to re-implement the minimum wage policy that we had in place prior to last year, which would state that if your COLA will result in you earning less than a 50-cent COLA, we'll bump you up to 50 cents. So nobody can get less than a 50-cent cost of living adjustment, which will help the employees who are earning less get higher up in the pay scales. As always, we are comparing our wages to our peers. High Springs and High Springs and Alachua, Green Cove Springs, those cities. In our long-term staffing plan, as we mention every year, we should be tracking for about one new employee for every 100 employees or every 100 residents that move into the city. So if you based it off of 2023's numbers, we would have 85 full-time staff. We currently have about 75. We are proposing about 3.5 new staff people in the general fund this year, but we're still below the benchmark. Here are the new positions that are requested in the general fund this year. Should be noted that these aren't all the positions. There are positions in the utility departments that aren't listed here just because we're not talking about them tonight. So we have a position reclass in the city clerk's office, a new groundskeeper in parks and maintenance, proposing an economic development and CRA manager to be split between the general fund and the CRA, a public works technician, a part-time events coordinator in recreation, part-time staff assistant position in finance, and then there was a request for a staff assistant in capital projects that was cut out of the budget. So here's a chart based off of the Florida League of Cities stats report. Just shows the median number of residents per municipal employee. So for cities between 5,000 and 15,000 people, it's about one employee for every 101 residents. City of Newberry is currently at one employee for every 123 residents. In operating, the good news, according to the Department of Labor as of today, inflation is negative 1%.
Something on that. The leaders are in here. James Jones is sitting there, the chief's sitting there. When you got 123 per 100, where are we behind? Your office, everybody's office, where are we behind that we need to catch up because of the benchmark?
I would say, it's pretty evenly spread throughout the city. Most notably,
who's behind? Where are we behind that if we're going to do this, let's facilitate what we need. Is Jamie, is he behind in water, sewer, electric, the fire department? We down 2? Where are we behind that we know that we need to catch this benchmark? That's what I'm asking. So we know that let's get ahead of it now. Let's get the people hired.
Across the way, it's everybody, right?
Yeah.
Except the fire department, because they have to have what they have to have.
Well,
they may be down.
Where are they? I ain't heard nobody say that we're behind. I'm just asking now. Jamie's sitting right here. Is it public? Is it water, wastewater?
It's pretty evenly across the board.
One per?
Yeah, I would say there's more of a need in our operating departments, the public works and the facilities teams, which is why you'll see the positions we're requesting to be funded this year, groundskeeper, public works technician.
But that ain't like the main You know, that ain't our sewer, and that ain't our water, and that ain't our.
This does not include utilities because we're only talking about general fund. There are positions, new positions funded in utilities. I believe there's a new lineman, a new wastewater operator.
There you go.
So
that would
this
bring
is only the
this-
general
this
fund.
gap.
It helps fill the gap,
Okay.
but it doesn't close the gap for sure.
And we're not proposing that we have to be the same as the benchmarks. The League of Cities publishes the data and says this is what we find from a survey across the state of Florida. And what we're showing in that is that Newberry runs leaner staffing than is average. The average for cities our size, which would be that second column, is one employee per 101 people in the city, and we have one employee per 123. We told you that we need 3.5 in the budget that we presented, but we've also showed you that if we use the statewide average, we would have 10 more employees, not the 3.5 that we're requesting. So we're not trying to build up to the state average. But we are advising, informing the commission that we're not overstaffed.
And these 3.5 though will come out of the general fund, and the others will come out of.
Correct.
With Jamie on the other side.
Correct.
Correct. But for those that want to know, I mean, because there's only one city operation in town, people don't know, well, are we appropriately staffed? So we benchmark. And what we're seeing is that a typical city our size would have 10 more employees doing the work that we're doing. And I think it's in keeping with what our community wants and what the commission is directing, that we try to run it lean and that we offer a lower cost level of service than the average governmental operation.
We just don't want to get too far out of that.
I think like when they do the.
Hang on, you have to come up. Yeah, come to the podium. We do have people watching
Come
that.
on, what's that name?
Make sure you introduce yourself anytime.
Hey, Commission, Deputy Chief Griffin with the Fire Department. I just wanted to clarify, so when they do the averages, this isn't, any one city, they don't have to stack their deck the same. So that's a number per resident, right? Not in per department.
Correct.
So your, Commissioner Clark, your question had been if you were directing toward the fire department.
Well,
We-
wherever we're lean, that's what I'm asking.
Well, I can just tell you, so from the fire department's perspective, basically, we have our own rough number, and there's a national average of 1.5 to 1.8 per thousand residents. And that puts us, if we go with the 1.5, that's about exactly where we're at. So we're right on with the low end of a national average.
Mr. Mayor, I'm all for adequate staffing, but I just don't want to hire people just for the sake of hiring people either. I don't want.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, the city manager also requests from his department heads every year a 10-year staffing plan. So every year we update a 10-year plan based off of what we think population is going to do, growth of the city, to manage that growth and to manage it equitably across all departments, you know. So Jamie doesn't get 5 new employees one year and Ryan gets none.
I think, and the manager said it well, the idea, we just need a baseline, right? We're not trying to be right at 100. We just need to know, you know, when you hear people at 1906 say, well, you guys got more employees, well, actually, we got less than what you see across the state. But without some sort of a benchmark, you have no way to have an intelligent conversation about where are we falling behind? Do we need more, right? Do we need less?
Moving into operations, we are presenting no new service level increases this year. Really nothing to report to the commission here except for price index increases, consideration for the population, and then, you know, contractually obligated increases. One thing I do want to point your attention to is in the bottom right corner. We have some statistics. This is from American City and County, which compiles a municipal cost index every year. Over the last year, that cost index has been 2.3%, which is not terrible. But since 2024, municipal cost index, the price that it takes to operate municipal government has increased 26%. The CCI is the construction cost index. So in the last 4 years, construction costs have risen 23%. And if you go back the last 10 years, the cost to run a municipal government has increased 35%, and construction costs have increased 43%. So definitely feeling the impact on our personal budget, but also the city's budget.
It's harder to offer tax reductions in the last decade than previous 3 or 4 decades. When I got started in government business, tax reductions were just easier to come by than they have been recently.
So moving into our capital improvement fund, I won't bore you with what a capital improvement program is, but it pays for all the big stuff. So in your infrastructure sales surtax fund, we have the following projects that have either been budgeted in the current year or in the next year that are planned to be continued. So the Newberry Environmental Park, that is the infrastructure required to build out the Newberry Environmental Park. The renovations of the historic power plant. We have received word from the state that we did receive that grant, so we'll be using the $347,000 to match the state's grant. We have $350,000 budgeted for the Veterans Memorial Park. Southwest 15th construction, reconstructions, $2.2 million. And then for the rest of the infrastructure sales surtax funds, it is all allocated out. $3.6 million of the infrastructure sales surtax will be going to road projects, and then we have a small piece set aside for a future police station plot of land. Moving into wild spaces, same concept, projects that are ongoing and will be finished next year, and the new projects in next year's budget. Design for the skate park, pickleball courts, lighting at Easton, the gym additions, the big project, that's a $6 million project. Easton multipurpose fields. The IFAS loan payment is, the Wild Spaces Fund is continuing to pay the city back for the purchase of the land at IFAS. RC park renovations and new pavilions at Easton. And again, the Wild Spaces funds are fully allocated through the end of the Wild Spaces program. And then this is the fun one. So we've heard the commission loud and clear about paving a road. Jamie's been working on design and engineering on Southwest 46th Avenue. We do have the cost back on that, just shy of $6.9 million. Obviously, the city doesn't have $6.9 million available for funding. So there's a couple of options available to the commission. Obviously, the first option is to do nothing. Second option is if you wanted to fully pay for that construction, is to raise your millage rate. That would take a 0.6357 mills increase to fund the debt service on that millage, or on that debt. It's about just shy of $500,000 annually. That's a pretty conservative number. I used a higher rate than we receive for City Hall, and we built contingency in there, so that's hopefully worst case scenario. Increasing the millage by that millage would cost about approximately $160 a year for an average Newberry homeowner. There are some options to help lower the cost and the impact on the millage. For example, if the city commission wanted to adopt a front foot assessment on the property owners on 46th, you could raise funds through that assessment to defray the cost.
How many miles is that? Jamie probably got the answer. This is crazy on money.
We'll go back to this 43% increase in construction costs.
Well,
How many miles is it?
I don't have the mileage off the top of my head, but what it equates to is about $427 per linear foot construction. To give you something to compare that to, the turn lane that we just authorized on 4th Avenue, that equated to $508 per linear foot of construction. They have, in the design, they identified the pieces that would be required to be constructed by the developer, the additional turn lanes and whatnot for Sandia Park, and they backed those costs out and they backed the design cost out. So if the project moved forward, it would make sense for the two pieces to occur at the same time. It'd make 2.7 miles. It would make sense for those two pieces to go forward at the same time, but the turn lane pieces would be at the developer's expense. And I believe, and this, off the top of my head, I believe his expense for that turn lane was about just shy of $200,000. Well, one of the reasons this particular road segment is so expensive is one that was conveyed to the city by the county. Got documentation from 1994, 96, where there was a study done on the road that it basically had reached its used and useful lifespan and had issues at that point in time. That study identified that the road was put in on an experimental asphaltic base. Basically, they took the sand that was there, that they had been grading, and they shot it with tack, and they paved over it. So, and I confirmed that when I made the repair in front of the sod farm where we had to dip, that there was absolutely no lime rock under the road, and we further confirmed that with cores from one end of the road to the other. So it's not an overlay of existing, it's basically a reclaim. You have to pull up everything that's there, mix and establish subgrade, put base down, and build a road. You're pretty much building a road from scratch.
In full.
So when it was built before, was it built? When it was built before, was it built to specs? Was that
I can't
in the
speak to-
contract or?
I can't speak to that because it was built by the county. It was built by the county. Now, we are adding width to the travel lanes, and we are stabilizing the shoulders. So the road, that is an improvement. That is a small, according to our consultant, capacity enhancement or capacity improvement. So it makes it eligible for a small portion of impact fee funding, but the rest of it would have to occur from the scenarios that Dallas suggested.
Commissioner Coleman?
Okay, so, this is so that would make our millage, that's what I'm fixing to discuss. So it'll make it 6.5357. So, 599.
You're at 5.9 flat.
5.9. Well, so, let me get this right. That would take us, that would take how many years if we're increasing the millage by almost 0.7? How many years would that take to pay off
This is a
46th Avenue?
It's a 30-year debt service.
30 years. God, mighty dang.
Can I, before we get too far down this, because no argument whatsoever that 46 needs to be resurfaced, right? But I don't remember seeing a presentation about our roads kind of as a whole, and before we get locked into a 30-year to fix this one, because then someone's going to say, well, what about this road over here, right? It's in bad shape too. Well, then we got a 30-year loan to fix that one, right? And that's another 0.7 mils. So, is 46 the one we want to address right now?
Not really.
You could do the whole.
I want 30, the 30th.
That, to me, that's the question that we
That's the feeder road out of
need.
Newberry to me.
And I think 30th, we got to get the land to do 30th. And then that's phase one, right? And then we
Yeah.
come back and talk about what do we do. We got to get the land, right? But we have to have a holistic conversation about, before we get into 46 and now we're locked into 46, is this the road? Because I think 30th, it's coming too, right, Dallas?
Mr. Mayor, just a point on 30th, the land acquisition is funded in this proposed budget through your impact fees. 30th is a much more impact fee eligible
That's improvement.
project
Yeah.
than 46th is.
So that's why, but Jamie, if you can come back and just talk to us about existing roads that we're not really going to be able to use impact fees, is 46 the worst of the worst and the highest trafficked, and that's the one that we need to be?
46th is the highest traffic road you have that is not impact fee eligible. We basically did a roadway classification study of all city streets. Right now, between the city streets we maintain, the county streets we maintain, we're just over 70 miles. On that, about 18 miles of that is within the CRA, so that opens up some CRA funding for those. Any road that you're increasing capacity on is eligible for impact fee funding. If you're not increasing capacity, then for the most part, it has to be funded by some other source, whether it's gas tax, debt, this, that, or the other, and Dallas can speak better to that. But this is just that segment of 46 from 337 to 2741. You've got some of the same issues on the east side of 2741, but it is the highest capacity road that, in my opinion, and quite frankly, one of the higher price tag roads is not impact fee eligible.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, to Jamie's point, Public Works has developed an inventory of all the city roads. As I mentioned earlier, in the infrastructure sales, there's actually about $3.6 million in road projects there. We have matched that funding with eligible CRA funding, with eligible gas tax funding to fund a road project every year using those funding sources. Now, they're not as big as a 46th, but it is addressing the roads more in the core area of the downtown based upon the worst roads, and then also trying to do a road in each quadrant every year.
Okay, so 46 is the worst road that isn't eligible for any other funding. Same question. Is this?
Yeah. Will Sandy Park be paying part of it?
The turn lanes that
They are paying a portion of it. The amount that is represented on the slide here is the city's portion, but we did include their portion in the design.
What I'm wondering is, if Sandy Park develops that area, is that going to spur more development in that area? And as the new development comes in, maybe they can pay
Well, they'll pay the impact fees.
for something that's already done?
Well, they pay the impact. That's the brilliance of impact fees, right? They pay the impact fees for the impact. Now, I don't know that we can use that to go back and pay debt off, but then we can use that for other road improvements, right, that come along. Did I say that correct?
That is correct. They'll pay impact fees that will then be utilized for the next generation of roadway project. And then every year, they'll also pay property taxes that we will use in part to make debt service payments.
So there's an exponential growth here that happens because you guys had the foresight to go ahead and put in impact fees now. So we will get the impact fees.
What gets me though, Mayor, is that it's gonna take 30 years to pay this back, say 46. By the time, well, probably well before that, who knows? We might have to repay it and still be owing on it.
Yeah, I thought the lifespan of a road was 20, and so you wanted to, or is technology now where we'll get 30 years out of this road, or? Because I agree with the commissioner on that. That's, the 30 years is a kind of hard to swallow.
It all depends on volume of traffic naturally, and quite frankly, the sooner you do overlay or friction courses on top of existing, the longer you can prolong the lifespan. Once you get to the point where the road's coming up, then you've got a major reconstruction. Like I said before, this road is a little different due to the fact that you don't have good base under to start off with. It needs to be a reclaim. And if you just overlaid it right now, it'd be a reduced cost, but the lifespan would be a 10 to 15 year lifespan. You should, depending on the volume of traffic, get a 25 to 30 year lifespan out of this road surface if it's maintained properly and evaluated. And if you need to overlay, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to come in and put 3/4 to an inch and a half on top of a good road that's got good base than to start from scratch. And we've explained to this commission before the mindset that, once you have established a road, that you've got an obligation to maintain it. And it's like anything else. The quicker you catch it, the lower the cost to prolong the life cycle.
I mean, one of the things that has come out of the county's new roadway plan is that they're trying to shift more of their attention to, once that road gets to 70%, they come in and bring it back up to 100 because it is a whole lot cheaper. It still doesn't answer what do you do about roads like 337, right? Which they're a little bit less of a, so I think we should emulate that part, but we need to get our roads back up to a good place so we can get to that, where we're just kind of coming back once they get there and we're doing the resurfacing.
Well, and the best analogy I can put to it, you can repaint your house every 10 to 15 years, or you can wait 20 years till the water has eat into the wood, and then you're not painting it, you're replacing the wood and painting it.
Dallas, let me shift gears on just a little bit while we're kind of contemplating about the road. Special assessments for street improvements. Would 46 be a street improvement that special assessment could go to fund?
To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Mayor, yes, you could adopt a special assessment along 46 to fund a portion of it. Typically, you see about a third of the cost is recouped through a special assessment.
Do special assessments require studies first to figure out what the special assessment should be and how, and that's $30,000 and a year?
Yes, it'd probably be about a year. I would probably say it's probably closer to 50,000, only because we don't have the ordinances currently in place to adopt one, so we'd have to write those ordinances as well.
I mean, I would never say a special assessment to pay the full of something either, but I think splitting the difference, because the millage increase, my concern about millage increases is you do the millage increase this year for this, and then after that, it just kind of falls into the noise, right? And it's there, but you don't really know how much of the millage assessments I can track. The downside of assessments is the argument that they're retroactive taxes because they hurt poor people more because everybody pays, which is why we've always split the difference generally, like with the fire assessment. We say, well, we know that the fire assessment could be 300, but we're not going to go all the way to 300. We're going to step into it. So, is that something the commission wants to consider? Because that, if you could get 30% of it out of a special assessment and 70% out of a millage, that keeps our millage down. I mean, right now, if you do it all out of millage, it's costing every homeowner in Newberry $160 a year to do one road. And I think, so, I mean, it's going to cost every homeowner, a special assessment is every homeowner too, right? Every homeowner in the district.
On 46. For a special assessment, they have to receive a benefit. Generally, for roads, it's parcels that abut the road.
I thought if you did a special assessment for road improvements that mirrored the city, as long as you're moving the benefit around.
You could do that.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was thinking, generally, if you're doing a specific road project, but if you wanted a citywide road improvement.
Yeah, we've never been successful at special assessments for neighborhoods, right? Because they want to pave the road. But we say, yeah, we can pay the upfront cost and put a special assessment, and you pay $300 in your taxes, they're out, right? They don't want to do that. So somewhere in the special assessment for a citywide, you just have to show how you are going to be spending a portion, in each quarter, which is kind of what we've been planning on doing anyway. We do some projects around each time, but we have a series of roads that I think are going to need to be addressed that we won't be able to use CRA funding, impact fee funding. So that leaves us with millage funding as the only option for those. Commissioner Mazon, you had a question?
Yes, I do. Is the 30-year debt, is that based off our population right now? Because over 30 years, our population is going to grow. And would that be considered more millage funds coming in? So would it be less than 30 years?
You can't change the law.
Mr. Mayor,
No, don't change. Well, I mean,
You can pay it off sooner.
You can pay it off sooner.
Yeah.
or conversely, you could reduce the millage every year as you generate more.
As you generate more population.
Yeah.
And then the other question to Monty's, to Monty's point was on that 46 Ave Road Southwest, as development grows, when it develops, can they pay for a portion of the road?
They'll pay the impact fees, but the impact fees can only be used to enhance the road. Part of our issue that doesn't allow us to use impact fees today to fund that road is we're not making any capacity improvements to the road. So in the future, if development does happen and increases the capacity of the road, we can use impact fees.
Could we create what did we call it when we ran down the sewer down 26? It was a pioneering agreement, and as you developed, you agreed to pay a portion back.
Well, just to expand on the point Dallas just made, if, say, a large-scale development came in and it was determined for that development to move forward, they had to have a turn lane or a decel lane or anything, they would be on the hook for the cost of that improvement initially, but they also would be paying impact fees on each new building permit towards the existing, or their impact on the existing.
I mean, I guess the argument from the developer would be, you didn't increase the capacity. There was already a paved road there. You know, my development, which is why they're paying the impact fees. But they'd say, I'm already paying the impact fees, right?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you know, we can't require a developer to pay, this 6.9 million pays to basically maintain the road in its current capacity. So you can't require a developer to pay retroactively for current maintenance. If they're needing to enhance the road, or we're requiring them to build upgrades to the road, you can ask them for payment.
I mean, I say it's not getting any cheaper, right? Go ahead.
Personally, I'd rather work from inside Newberry out. And that 15th is a joke. 30th, they're gonna avoid because it's not paved at all. Personally, if we were gonna spend this kind of money on 30 years, I'd say take that part of that money, take that money and go do 30th.
30th is eligible for impact fees. So that's why I think we gotta think of 30th in two phases. We've already funded the land acquisition. Once we get to the point where we say, okay, what does that one cost? Because that's more like 6 miles of road.
No.
How long is the 30th? Is that 3 miles? 5 miles?
And Mr.
Right.
Mayor, to the impact fee,
337?
No, 30th from,
From 741 to
yeah.
It's it's 1.6 to my house and another 0.6 to 202. 2.2.
So,
That's the length of the dirt road.
but impact
Sandy's is
fees,
on the other side.
we can bring to bear on 30th. So I think, I like the way staff is phrasing it because I think it's the right way to think of it. All of the roads that we don't have any other funding source for, right? Because we're not going to be looking at the same thing when it comes to 30th. Well, we will be looking at the same thing, but there'll be a big chunk of it with impact fees.
that's the point I wanted to clarify, is while 30th is more eligible for impact fees, it's not 100%
Well, we'll do a big
eligible.
study and let's see what we got overall on the roads, because this is.
Well, we have Jamie did, 6 years ago we started and we categorized every single road. I just haven't seen that presentation in like 4 years. So it's not fresh in my brain, but it is at Jamie's.
And we expand on that every year. And just so you understand, there are roads that belong to the city of Newberry that are in worse physical shape than 46th Avenue. But 46th Avenue is the largest carrying capacity road that needs to be done. And while there's a lot of roads that, you know, if funding was no option, I would do before you did 46, the price of 46 is never going to get cheaper than it is today. If you wait 10 years and do it and do all your short segments, that's a good thing, proves that. But 46th Avenue will never get cheaper than it is today.
Mr. Mayor,
Anderson's the Ridge. Yeah, I know.
the only
Capitalism at its best.
information, direction we need from the commission tonight is if on Monday night you want to adopt a millage rate, a preliminary millage rate that can be reduced, that includes this increase, or not. Because of the increase, it does require a supermajority of the commission, so that means we need 4 commissioners to vote yes on Monday night to adopt the millage rate, if you want to include this in your tentative budget.
Let me ask Jamie a question.
We have one more wrap-up workshop that you can further discuss.
There'll be one more slide, that's why I do.
Well, there is one more slide, but it just says questions. And you'll note that it is not a child and it's not on fire.
Jamie, I know we're talking about different departments, but with all the projects going on in Newberry right now, let's say the commission said, let's do it, right? What's our timeline for addressing 46? We say yes tonight. Let's just imagine tonight's the last time we say yes. We got to go get the debt. We got to do design, we got to do engineering.
We have 100% plans. drawn and specifications.
So we're ready to go to bid?
Almost. They're
Okay.
putting together the procurement documents. They're applying for the Water Management District permit, because believe it or not, it was never permitted before and it requires permitting. But we would be in a position that you could potentially move forward with it in the fall.
The fall of
It would take me
24?
about 6 months to issue debt
Debt.
on it.
I got
And
one more.
how long would those plans, how long are those good for? Let's say we don't say go, and we wait 10 years. 10 years, are we starting over?
No, that design is good
Good for-
as long as you want to stay with the width and no regulatory issue changes on the stormwater side. So you can put them on the shelf and you can revisit them and revive them whenever you want to.
Okay, Commissioner
There's
Holman.
one, well, and Jamie will be who I need to ask, is 46 and 27, you got the angle of the dangle there. Are we purchasing land there from,
This design,
By angle of the dangle, you mean we're straightening it out?
yeah,
Just, I was with you. I just want to make sure everybody at home. If you've never driven 46, 27 is like this, and 46 comes in like this, and it creates you got to kind of turn around and really hard to see.
yeah, I mean, with my neck, I have to,
Yeah.
mine is here looking that way towards 27.
there is no realignment proposed, and we've put the limits of construction where it matches the DOT right-of-way. So we're not going all the way out and mating 2741. We're stopping where our right-of-way meets the DOT right-of-way. Now, when DOT moves forward with a resurfacing or improvement project on 2741, that is the time to address that alignment. And then it's a DOT cost, and they make ours match theirs.
Does their easement go to the railroad track or not quite? Almost. So
Almost.
we're gonna resurface the railroad crossing.
We don't go right up to the railroad crossing, so basically everything right at the railroad crossing to 337. There's a little bit of work in the railroad crossing, but it's minor. The alignment is not plumb by any means there, but it's not nearly as offset as 30th is. So when we do 30th, that's the goal there, to really try to bring those two back in line.
How many miles of the road in Newberry are non-eligible for any other funding? You said we have 75 miles of road roughly, and
Yes, sir, and like I said, there's 18, and I'm speaking from memory, there's roughly 18 in the CRA, so that opens up CRA funding. And Dallas, correct me if I misspeak, but basically, any road project is capable of putting gas tax money towards it. Anything that you can demonstrate as an improvement or expands capacity is impact fee eligible. The only real change in 46 right now is widening. And per the DOT capacity manual, and we had a long discussion with the county coincidentally about this today, just widening does not really increase the throughput capacity of the road. And that's the rational nexus, is whether or not you can apply impact fees, is whether you're increasing the amount of capacity or traffic that can go up and down that road. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Commissioner Farnsworth?
The estimate on 46, does that include sewer line and water line?
No, sir. No, sir. It does have some cross drains, does regrade some of the swales on the road. There's currently no water or wastewater planned south of there. There was some discussion about that being the potential route for Archer's Force Main to come through, but they're back in the DOT right away. They would be coming down 2741. So there's no utilities planned for there.
I mean, would it be cheaper to put those lines in when you're doing the road construction or later?
Well, without knowing what you were constructing to, everything would be a guess. As far as just boring in a water main or a force main later, that can be done after the road without open cutting the road. The only time you have to get into open cutting the road is if you don't put gravity sewer in. You got to know what you're going to. So if you put utilities under there, there's a good chance that it wouldn't match anything you needed to build to.
And those kinds of fees, we can have conversations with the developers on because that we're running
100%.
specifically for them.
Yeah, that's, if you want to develop south of there, which I don't remember off the top of my head with the urban services area, I don't think we would
It's
be.
the southern boundary of
Is it?
the USA, roughly. It's the southern boundary of the USA. So, I mean, we don't plan for utility extensions beyond that in a 20-year horizon. And to Jamie's point, when we do utility extensions, they most likely would be in the shoulders and the grass part of the right-of-way, and there would be an increased cost for a few directional bores, and that's it.
And what about 30th, anything going on there?
Well, currently, we haven't contemplated putting any utilities under 30th because there's nothing slated to develop there. It's not our electric territory, and currently, there's nothing programmed for water or wastewater. Should, like Newberry Ridge, move forward, they would have to connect to our existing utilities, extend to what they needed. Those costs would be on them.
But we are getting the easement
We're
to be able
getting
to
the
run
right.
stuff up and down.
Land rights.
Yeah, we are getting land rights.
You would have the room to go parallel to the road, and anything you needed to go south would be a bore.
The challenging part where you really want to get in front of it, Jamie mentioned it early, is if you're putting gravity sewer, in most of our neighborhoods, we're running gravity sewer down the middle of the road. These collector roads typically don't run gravity sewer down the middle of the road. We typically might see force mains on the edge of the right-of-way, water mains on the edge of the right-of-way, and occasionally when you do run gravity sewer down these collector-type roads, we usually get that off to the side of the road and try not to get it under asphalt as well.
I mean, the question that we got to answer tonight, if you guys don't set a preliminary millage rate of 6.7, then you've answered the question for this year anyway, right? Because now then we can't go back up. So if you set it at, and I'm just saying 6.7 as a roundabout, if you set it there, we can keep having a conversation. In my mind, I believe that we need a funding source for road improvements that are not going to be eligible for any other funding source. And right now, that's millage. So if you want to do it all through millage, or if you want to have a conversation, obviously those funds wouldn't, well, we could probably get the funds for a special assessment for road improvement done by the time we're actually making a payment, right? So do you want to pursue a revenue source that you can track and is specific to go in to pay for roads? Or do you want to do it all through millage rate and that's our only option?
What's the majority max mean?
Can you go back to that slide?
Majority max means that's the highest millage you can adopt with a simple majority, 3 out of 5 commissioners.
Dallas, with the 6 what is it, 6.3, 6.7, whatever it is?
Majority max or?
No, which is what he's requesting tonight to be the millage to be.
Well, I'm not requesting anything.
Well, what you're asking,
Yeah.
If the commission wants to fund Southwest 46, it would be just shy of 6.6.
break that down monthly. How much would that be monthly?
It's 160 a year. So what's
So
that? a month?
$13 a month,
For the average resident.
13.3 total?
6.5.
No, that'd be the increase.
That'd be an increase. So with the increase, so what are we looking at total? Like, what is the millage rate now? 5.99?
5.9.
And how much is that annually?
Let me do some math here.
I'm just,
So if you have a house that's valued at $250,000, it'd be $1,475 at the current millage rate annually.
And overall with millage, it puts us between Gainesville and La Crosse.
It's $100 a month, because you.
$100, so it'd be $113 a month total with this if we move forward. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm hearing that we need to improve our infrastructure. And I don't think we should kick the can down the road any further. And this is only accounting for the houses that we have now. We have other houses being built, so you might as well go ahead and start now and then just pay the debt off early. Instead of waiting and then waiting for the increase on material. That's
I'm
my
not
opinion.
necessarily opposed to the project. I think it's going to have to be done eventually. I agree with Jamie. It's not going to get any cheaper. I worry about doing everything out of millage. I like a diversification of revenues. I like to a little here, a little bit there. I like to kind of spread it out so that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. So, I mean, the way I'm separating is like three questions, right? Do we do the project? One, yay or nay. If we do the project, are we just gonna fund this out of millage, or is now the time to go ahead and set the table? Because 46, and the first thing we're gonna hear, once we vote to do 46, is no one's gonna say thank you. Everyone's gonna say, what about my road, right? Nobody ever said. So we'll
And
get
it's
there.
way out there. is
It's
what they're
way out
looking at.
there, right? It's way out there.
They're not looking at
Right.
feeder or anything out of
Right.
out of Newberry.
What's our timeline on making this decision?
Well, if you go to the 6.7, then you made it tonight. Or not on Monday.
On Monday,
Yeah.
you need to adopt a high enough preliminary millage to fund it. Ultimately, your final decision will be in September when you adopt your final millage rates.
If there's other roads and Jamie we need to bring them all or loop them together, and we need another $1.5 million, why don't we do it all at one time?
I mean, it ain't gonna be just $1.5 million.
Well, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you
How many
gotta have?
miles
I mean,
did y'all say it is on 30th?
We did at one point, if we wanted to pave everything in Newberry.
30th, I ain't talking about
I-
paving 30th, I'm talking about.
I can bring the classification
Inside.
study back before
Yeah.
the commission in a workshop format, if that's what you choose, or bring the commission back up to speed, in one-on-ones on that. I don't know the grand total number off the top of my head.
Dallas, if it takes 6 months to go for the debt, then we're not making this payment
Your first payment would be,
in this budget year.
no, it'd be in 2026.
So why do we need the millage rate in this budget year?
Because your bond companies are not going to issue you debt if you don't show, you have the ability to pay.
But couldn't we split the difference and do
You could.
0.3 now and 0.3 later, so that you avoid the supermajority and you're not hitting people right off the bat?
You could, you would have higher interest costs because the bond issuers are going to look at the fact that you don't have the required revenue to pay the bond, and there's no guarantee that the next commission will increase it.
But there's no guarantee that the next commission will hold the millage rate.
If
Yes.
you issue a bond, you're required to make the bond payment.
See, that's, again, to me, that's it. Now you're saying that for 30 years, you're gonna have it in the millage. And to me, I think that there's gotta be some way that we can, carve this thing up so that it's not.
I've got it right here, you ready?
Because I agree with what Commissioner Clark is saying, and I think I'd love a refresher on all the roads.
Where's that dadgum dollar bill at?
But it was however many millions of dollars it was when we had that presentation 3 or 4 years ago.
We can bring that back. We have budget workshops, but we also have a couple city commission meetings.
Yeah.
We can do a 20-minute presentation or a 30-minute presentation.
But all of those construction costs have gone up by 30%.
We need to make
Since-
sure that we've got the right numbers.
And so now we're just talking about a 3 point millage rate to pay off the $30 million, right? And which would just bring me right back to the same conversation. We're gonna do that all through millage, or are we gonna find some revenue sources?
Maybe we start line marking them again.
Well, the thing about it
Revenue
is
sources.
looking at our residents and saying, hey, we just put you in debt for 500,000, more than that, a year. No, well, almost 500,000 a year for a road that, what is it, quarter of the people might use?
I thought he just said that's one of our busiest.
He says it's the busiest road that's not
I
eligible
drive
for
that
any other
road
fund.
every single day. You do too, don't you? I don't
No,
know if
I
that's
don't
your
go that far
territory.
down. No.
But I drive that road every single day. It's not that busy.
Yeah.
It's busy, but it's not that busy.
Oh, and he didn't say he said it's the busiest road that's
Right.
not eligible for any other funding.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a very specific category
And a lot of that traffic might be coming from Levy County as they're traveling.
as they're
down.
trying to avoid 337 because you cut
Oh,
off
they go through.
before you get to those
yeah.
curves.
In the
Yeah.
mornings when people are going to work, they're going from Gilchrist County, a lot of them are going right on.
They are.
It's been several years, Mr. Mayor, since we did it, but I can refresh the counts on there and tell you exactly. It'll take me,
Trips?
I can do
Yeah.
trip counts again.
But guys, it doesn't matter what road we do. My question's still going to be: Are we going to pay for roads all out of millage, Or are we
I'm
going to
not
look for
for
something
that.
else?
No.
So are we interested in having staff at least explore what a special assessment for street improvement would be? Is there any other revenue source for street improvements that we're not talking about tonight?
For this road.
Now, I mean, a street improvement assessment would be for the whole city, right? We could use it for this road, but we could also use it to mitigate 30th. We could use it to mitigate something else. We just have to make sure that we move it around and we're doing something in each quarter so nobody can say, hey, you're charging me for something that I never get to use. Is there any other revenue source? Because that should be the topic of conversation. Everybody up here has a road they want to do. Every resident out there has a road that they want us to do. And one road is putting us at 0.6 mil increase, right?
Yeah,
So we can't do all the roads through millage because we'd be looking at a 10 mil, we'd be up against the cap, right?
Okay.
So are we willing to explore some other ways to fund this? Commissioner Mazel.
Okay, I got it. Just help me understand this. So this road is the only road that can be funded through millage rate, correct, or no?
All
There's
all the roads can be funded out of millage.
Right?
This
But
road has no other options aside
There's
from
no other options outside the millage rate, right? So this road is eventually gonna have to get paid for,
gas
right?
tax, which is already funded.
Which is why I'm saying if we had a special assessment for streets, we would have another revenue source
To pay for
to
this
help
road.
pay for this road and for any other roads that we want to do, right? Without, and I don't know, because we haven't done the study, so I don't know if this takes us from a 0.6 mil increase down to a 0.4 mil increase, and then you do the other 0.2% off of the assessment. I don't know, I have no idea what those numbers look like, and it doesn't sound to me like we have the option to not do the whole, if we want to do this road, you'd have to go ahead and have the whole millage now so that you can go out and get the debt, even if you're saying to the bonds, well, we're going to adopt this special assessment for roads improvement. We don't know what that is yet, so I don't,
If there is another.
does that have any effect on the conversation with the bond folks?
No, they want to see proof in hand that you've got them.
Yeah.
Okay.
just one other thing too, from the, county line there at Gilchrist and Alachua County there for 46, I don't see a whole lot of traffic between here and there. I mean, how many houses are on, but I keep calling it a feeder road because I do see in,
Feeding through, yeah.
well, what is it, what's the area there called? There in Gilchrist?
Saying, in Gilchrist?
Right there, all of them, they're all, those houses, huh? Yeah, Waukesasa.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of those are coming down that road from Waukesasa.
Oh, yeah.
That's a neighborhood really now, but.
And
Kind
to
of.
his point, he's calling it a feeder. It is a collector highway.
I
And
agree.
we have very few collectors in Newberry that we're responsible for. When the county conveyed it, today they're not allowed to do that. But when the county conveyed it, that was probably the dirtiest of the road they conveyed. They conveyed plenty of local streets, and that rightfully so. We could have that argument. Conveying this collector here, this today really is more of a county rural highway, collector highway than anything else. But again, that's water under the bridge. But Jamie said it earlier, we don't have any others like this that have this capacity, that were designed for this functionality within the city limits. It's just unfortunate that it's the one that's been teed up and easiest to tee up for us. The others have all these land right issues and other constraints. This one does not.
And I want to go ahead and say one more time, because I know that Southwest 15th is becoming a tragedy of a road.
It's awful.
But we don't own that road, and our ability to address that road is severely hampered because it's not our road. And so I know that we've got commissioners that want to do something about that road. I'm more than willing to meet with the county and see if there's anything, but every time we've tried to enter into any partnership on a road with the county, it has embarked on a year of staff time of putting it together, and every single one has fallen apart at the end.
Except 202, right?
Well, that wasn't even a partnership. They just went and did that one. They didn't ask us anything about it. They just did it. I'm not sure that we would have asked for 202 if they had asked us. We might have had other roads that we thought were chip seal eligible. But so I would love to address Southwest 15th, but since it's not our road, I don't know how you guys use Newberry tax dollars to improve a county road when we don't have enough tax dollars to improve our roads.
No.
You know,
Well, and Mr. Mayor, when we first started talking about this road in concept, probably 2019, 2020, I told the commission at that point in time that it was a unique road and it would be the most expensive road project this city ever did. And quite frankly, that's the reason they did the study on it in the 90s, because it was close to failure then. They were looking at the potential of locating a C&D facility or excavation facility down there. They wanted to know what the impact was. That's the reason I've been so concerned about it, with it built on the type base it is. And at the end of the day, you know, we can do any roads that the city commission directs us to do. I believe, if I understand Dallas correctly, that we've got like 9 other roads programmed in the CIP right now. We can shuffle them around in any order that you want to. But at the end of the day, sooner or later, you don't have to do 46. At the end of the day, it's never going to get any cheaper. If you want to do another road first, we do the presentation. We'll decide from that based on the classification which ones you want to start with. But it's one of those issues. You may do 6 or 7 short segments, but sooner or later, you don't have to put money into 46, and sooner or later, you don't have to come up with a funding mechanism.
Jamie, that's where I was at with asking for the education of what the roads are. If we could put a few more dollars with some of the other shorter segments that we need to do and get it done, and we do this all at one lick, borrowing some more money instead of just 46th Avenue. But how do we pay for it? It looks like millage, and there's some CRA, but that's what I'm asking. I mean, do we do 3, do we do 4, and get it done right now?
So when we did the road inventory.
And we know this one's big.
When we did the road inventory, we've got roads that are paved that need to be rehabilitated, whether it's a reconstruction or an overlay. We also, in that road inventory, have roads that's never been paved, and you've got to address drainage and things of that nature. We've also, as part of that inventory, went through just this year and broke out what's in the CRA, what has sidewalks on one side, what has sidewalks on the other side, what has no sidewalks whatsoever, what has drainage, what has land rights, what has this, what has that, because we wanted to gather that information so you could have it to make intelligent decisions. I am, speaking off the top of my head, but you're not talking about just adding $1 million or $2 million. With the volume of roads you're talking about, you're adding significant if you wanted to go out and bond all of them at one shot.
Not all of them. I mean, we can't do that. There's no way.
okay, I'm going to take the special assessment conversation off the table for tonight, because it doesn't sound like it changes. The question we have to decide is on Monday, do we want to have a preliminary millage rate of 6.6 to leave this conversation on the table, right? Because whether we do the special assessment later, which I think we do need to figure out that conversation, but we got a little more time. Do we want to set that preliminary rate so that we keep having this conversation, or do we want to answer the question now and say we're going to put that on the shelf and we're going to come back to it later? So that's Monday, it's not tonight, right? But that is the decision that's going to have to be made. And I like where Commissioner Clark is going. Can we wrap some more things in, since we're going to go out and take out more debt? Can we have some conversation about that? But again, in order to do that, that would mean we'd have to have the millage increase all to cover that now, because we won't be able to have the special assessment until next budget year, right?
One thing before I lose the train of thought, I meant to mention it before, Mr. Mayor. We first started talking about 46. We were at the 4.5, 4.8 $1 million range before the escalation in construction, and you see what the estimate is now.
When I was the first commissioner, it was $1 million a mile to pave. It was $1 million a mile. And now it's $3 million a mile.
That equates to $2,250,000 a mile based on that.
Dallas.
Mr. Mayor, you did ask if there was a potential other funding source. Aside from using a Jamieism of bake sales and raffles, there is one other option. You could go to general obligation bonds, which would require a referendum vote of the city. Your residents would vote whether or not they wanted to increase their own taxes to pay for this debt service. And then every year, the millage would be set specifically to pay that debt. So property rates go down, millage would go up, property values go up, millage would go down. That's a
Not a bad thing.
vote of the residents.
In their hand.
Typically, when you see general obligation bonds, you do wrap in lots of
Lots of
projects because
things.
you want everybody in the city to vote yes.
Is there another municipality that you know of, anybody that has a special assessment as the whole city for road improvement?
I mean, it's not, I don't know of any in our area. The county has a ton of special road assessments by quadrant in areas. But I don't know of any area. It's not uncommon throughout the state for sure. But I would imagine, to your point, last time I talked to the assessment people, what we would most likely need to do to ensure that residents were receiving benefit from their assessment is adopt several special assessment districts that cover the city, probably one in each quadrant, and those assessments would stay in those quadrants.
That sounds complicated.
Mr. Mayor, the county that I used to work for before I came to work for you had a participative, and still does have a participative paving program that at one point in time, Alachua County was looking to emulate. And basically what it is, you identify a road segment, you have to have certain public hearings, and there's a vote on it. If 60% of the people that have footage, and you can only count front footage, if somebody's on a corner lot, you can't catch him both ways if the road does. But if 60%, then it becomes an assessment. And in that assessment, it works like the old front of foot assessments they used to do for sewer. I tell you, you've got 100 foot and your bill is X dollars. You have the option to come pay it, or you can do it as an assessment on the tax bill, and they basically finance it and they put interest on it. And it's tied to the property, runs with the property. You never get away from it if the property flips hands. But basically, you only have to have 60%, but there's a legal process to go through to do that. It's called participative paving.
Is Southwest 46 in the urban service area, or is it the border of the urban service area?
Southern border.
So the northern edge of 46 is the southern line, or is the southern edge of 46 the line? If we,
Not that well defined.
okay, I'm just if we put a special assessment on the urban service area, because all the roads would be in the urban service area. But now, I mean, what we're looking for are the roads that are particularly not in the urban service area that we'd want to address.
I would rather, I kind
This is why
of
the
like the
consultants
idea.
charge a lot of money.
No-brainer for me.
Let's, heck, yeah. We got time to put it on the next, election?
If you wanted to do a general obligation bond, we could put it on the April election. As long as Judy doesn't tell me I can't.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not a,
Yeah,
let's give it to the.
I mean, I'm not opposed, but I think that if you're going to do all of that work, then we need to know the cost to do every single thing. And we need, like, there has to be a campaign. Like, you got to have blow-ups, and you got to have, it's that way everybody knows what they're going to be getting. And it has to pass by 60%.
That's a different one. That's Jamie's.
That's Jamie's.
Not entirely
Participation
sure, but I
program.
believe it's a simple
He's talking about
majority.
something else.
Okay. So this one is a simple majority. And
I believe, I need to do research.
does this separate out on the millage? So we would have our 5.99, and then you'd have,
You'd have a
three
city, a
mills.
city operating millage and a city debt millage.
Okay. Because one of the
Letting the citizens make that
Right.
decision.
yeah. Well, and one of the things that's always difficult when we have, Newberry versus High Springs and Archer is, we're not all offering the same services here for the millage rate, right? So, and we all have different revenue sources and different fee structures and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really hard to compare one city to another city. But I mean, so Monday, we have to answer this question for Monday, right?
Yeah, that's preliminary.
It's preliminary. You can come back.
What is it?
Wait, you
6.6.
say that, then all our residents get a tax notice that, you're raising
Yeah, that
taxes.
is
so-
true.
Right. Once you've said it, even at the preliminary, that's when the phone calls start coming. Like, hey, why are y'all going up, right? So, I mean, we're down a commissioner tonight, right? If you go up to 6.6, it'd have to be 4 people to say yes, right? To go up to that much of an increase.
But you can lower it too.
You can come back down.
Okay.
Right.
Question. So say we set the millage rate at 6.7, right? And then we have another way of paying for 46 Ave. Could we implement that payment and then decrease the millage?
If-
I'm trying to
as long as
avoid-
that-
I'm trying to avoid material, man. It's not gonna get any cheaper. It's gonna have to get paid. Even we do it now, we kick it off to other commissioners 30 years from now, whenever they wanna pave it. That's just my,
That's what the commissioners for us do.
well, I don't, I'm hearing residents saying they want infrastructure, so this is infrastructure.
Well, that goes to
Regardless.
Commissioner Coleman,
Right.
put it to a vote, right?
Well,
And my experience there has always been, I want the infrastructure,
But don't
but
want
I
to pay
don't,
for it.
but I don't pay anything for it.
What,
Right.
there you
I
go.
want the developer to pay for everything. Well, 46 is a road that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
There's no way we can get a developer to just arbitrarily
well,
put it on them.
this is a
right?
Band-Aid I don't mind ripping off.
Well, at least if you put it to the bid, then you can say, hey, you
someone's gotta make
vote,
that
you didn't
decision.
vote.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hearing people everywhere I go saying infrastructure,
I'm for
infrastructure,
that, guys.
set the millage rate, and if there's another form of paying for it, implement it, and then lower the millage rate.
Yeah, but the person living over here on
You can't do it for 30 years.
Fourth Avenue.
Well, we keep
Not gonna
it,
be happy about you spending all that money.
but keep in mind though, this is,
Well, that's
with-
why I
this is
think-
with houses
Yeah.
that are, right now, population is gonna grow over 10 years, so that means you can pay the debt off sooner.
46 is definitely gonna get more traffic.
4,500 homes are definitely gonna be able to pay this debt.
And 46 is gonna, I
I
don't know
mean,
what all
come on.
going
I
out
mean,
in
it's-
there.
for me,
but
it's
gonna
a-
be
Well,
crazy.
I mean, I
It's
think
a-
if you're gonna go to the vote, we need all the projects in. There's gotta be something for everybody, and then you wrap it all together. So, and the plan for 46 is good at least for a year. So we could sit on 46 for a year while we explore this, while we explore the special assessment, right? And none of this has to be decided tonight. And I feel like everybody's kinda,
Sitting on the cost of
we beat
materials.
this horse.
Look at Fourth Ave and how much it costs us now, Pat, versus
Yeah.
what it cost us a while back, right?
Mr. Mayor, to that point, what we didn't talk about, just to remind the commission, is this is that funded, and that we're gonna be working on this year, and we're gonna have a full plate, and no one citizen could say, y'all aren't doing enough. Southwest Fourth is underway today, Southwest 15th is ready to go, Southwest 254th is under design, it probably won't be ready to go, but Northwest 260 is close, and Northwest 266 is ready to go. We're waiting on a developer. And there will be road improvements, intersection improvements at Newberry Lane and County Road 235 associated with the two developments, Publix and Wawa across the street. So there's going to be, and we have construction projects and roadway infrastructure going in at Easton. And we have construction projects going on at Jimmy Durden Park. And we are about to embark on the largest capital project that the city of Newberry has ever thought about undertaking with a wastewater plant expansion. So I would say plate is really full. If the commission wants this, we can do it. But if the commission wants to set the preliminary rate high enough to get us some cushion before they set the final millage rate, and then spend 6 months having a further conversation about Southwest 46th and Southwest 30th. I don't think that anyone could say we missed an opportunity if the commission says, yeah, we do have a full plate, we just didn't talk about them in this particular conversation.
I'm just telling you, I like this idea of the referendum vote, but that's, all I'm seeing in my brain is a ton of work, right? Because you're talking about town hall meetings, you're talking about,
Why?
Mr. Mayor,
Dude.
It's so simple.
yeah,
You know?
Man,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr.
I mean,
Mayor,
it's gonna be, that's actually more work than just going and doing a road, in
This
my
ain't
brain.
rocket surgery. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just saying, hey,
I'll
you're gonna
put you
spend
in
this
the-
amount.
I'll put you
tax.
in the charge of the public facing for that referendum vote then.
I'm not for either way. See what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
giving it to
To
the
the people to
citizens
vote.
to
Right.
make that decision.
I agree.
I mean, they're-
Okay,
they're
let's
gonna be
let's
unhappy
begin, let's
to
bring
raise
this,
the
you want one
millage
last
rate.
call before we start
If-
wrapping
if
this
the-
up?
If the commission does want us to pursue a general obligation, we would still request a small millage rate increase because we need to hire lawyers and all the
Right.
consultants and all that.
Okay, so we're gonna bring this to an end tonight,
Always.
right? Monday, we have to determine the preliminary millage rate. So if you're dead set, you want to move forward, then you're going to argue for a 6.6 millage rate to keep the conversation going.
Jamie,
If
how long,
you're-
I'm sorry,
Go
how
ahead.
long would this project take? If we were to say, yeah, and go forward now, how long would it take?
15 years,
15 years?
15 years.
Like Twin Pairs,
He's
huh?
joking. He's joking.
I know he is.
No, it would be a 12-month construction.
12-month contract.
Because we're ready to go.
15 years paid off.
No, how
15
far
years.
are we with the Twin Pairs right now? Keep in mind, we got Twin Pairs that are gonna be doing construction, and then we also have the Coleman construction off of 266.
27.
So keep in mind, 46 Ave would be another way to alleviate traffic from downtown.
So currently, I believe that the latest construction estimate on the Twin Pairs is 2027, early 2027, is that your last?
All right. Everybody knows
So
what they got to
46
think
Ave be
about.
done.
Everybody
Let me
knows.
say, and if
All right.
we're gonna go deep, I'm either all in
There it is.
Yeah,
or I'm all out
Rip it off.
on some of this. So I'm just going over the math right here. So Dallas, let's just back up real quick. Like I said, I'm not in for just this one road. I think if we're gonna do something, we do something. We need a little bit of an education here, quick, and we need to get a plan on what we're gonna do and how far we're gonna go up here. But 30 years, I'm just not a guy for 30 years on a debt service. For me, I'm not gonna vote 30 years of no debt for nobody. But, and I am willing, for me, 800,000 on your chart here would bring us up, even though it's gonna look bad on our taxes, that's 800,000 a year that we can spend, correctly? Correct.
If you raise the millage by
One
one
mil.
full mill, yes, sir.
That's 800,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we did a 10-year bond, now we're at $8 million instead of 30-year at a $500,000. And you're talking $100 versus, you're talking about $100 it says per average citizen, and based on growth, that'll come down, correct? Does that get divvied down?
It can be. Mr. Mayor,
Once we grow a little bit?
if we reduce the term from 30 years to 20 years, it increases your annual debt service payment by about $100,000. So you would need to increase your millage to about 0.73.
So, but he wants it
So
to
if
be
I go-
15.
We go one, we get 800,000, we can pay this thing off, and we can borrow $10 million to pay it off in 10 years. Well, I don't know what the interest rate is.
Yeah, more or less. Right.
Yes.
Is
Well,
it?
that's what
I
we
think
got-
in 10 years.
We gotta think about
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Depends on the commission.
Depends on the commission.
So if you wanted to do,
It's one.
We have seen taxes go down.
Me neither.
the city commission of Newberry.
I
has
thought
lowered
we were
taxes
speaking
twice in the last 2 years.
hypothetically, right? Like, as the city grows, the amount of millage that would pay is lower.
$6.5 million.
Okay, and we do not have to make all this decision tonight. We just need to understand that what to bring back on Monday. I mean, I think Commissioner Clark is making a good point. If you're gonna go, let's get out of the 30 years. What is it to get it down into a 10 to 15-year payback?
Mr. Mayor, if you were to increase the millage by 1 mil and generate $803,000 on a 10-year financing, you could do a project that was $6 million.
How the hell we just do
Well,
a $500,000, $6 million that's gonna be for 30 years?
The interest
Or you
kills
just
it.
mean in 10 years we'll pay it off?
In 10,
In 10
if you want to
years?
make a debt service payment of $803,000 a year for a
That's what we
10-year
get,
payment,
6 million?
you get $6 million in actual project money.
And what's gonna be the?
So we need to be like a
increase?
12-year
payback. How much more is the homeowner going to pay in property tax?
I'm sorry?
How much more is the homeowner going to have to pay in property tax?
It was about
That'd be about
$100.
$200.
Be 200 now.
I mean, it depends
That
on.
would be monthly.
No, that'd be annually per household. I think it'd be a little over 200.
If you have a $200,000 house, a
If you-
1 mil would be $200 a year.
Here's when we roll it straight into millage, the non-residential probably carries a little bit more percentage of the load than through the assessment. But, that's an awareness for the commission, it's not a recommendation.
Right.
Awareness that
And
the burden gets probably gets a little higher on the non-residential folks, carrying millage versus other ways of paying.
In special assessments for street improvements, do commercial pays, it's based on square footage?
They pay a little bit more because generally the thought is that commercial does more wear and tear on the road than residential.
All right, I'm doing a terrible job bringing this meeting to a close.
Mr. Mayor, I got to get to the controversial stuff.
I think we all understand the things that we need to sleep on, right? And Jamie, I don't know, I know you've got that presentation. Is it possible to bring that presentation on to Monday's meeting so that we at least have a review? Okay,
Mr. Mayor, we will get it updated for the subsequent meeting.
okay.
And if it means I have to do it because Jamie's otherwise.
Well, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I just think that what we need is a refresher on the ranking of what the roads are so that we know what the potential projects out there could be. Because Mr. Clark went in a slightly different direction with that conversation than I thought. I thought we were talking about the referendum and
Right.
doing all the roads together. What would it be?
Either way, though.
You want to pay this road off quicker. Those are different avenues, right, to go down. So we'll dust that presentation off. We will all sleep on this conversation this week, and we'll have another conversation on Monday, hopefully with a full board.
I got one last thing, please,
Uh-huh.
because I've been sitting here. What is the cost of the projects, the total? That's what I want to know, if it's Monday. Oh, yeah, but I
That's
thought
what-
there was like some kind of,
There was, but it's
Yeah.
old. It's
Yeah.
really old right now.
I haven't updated it since early 2023, but early 2023, at that point in time, I believe I'm in the right place, there was $20 million worth in early 2023.
Right. That one you got to go to the referendum. Okay.
$5.5 million of those projects are funded.
So we're checking them off, right? Okay. Let's get to your little question mark slide that didn't have nothing was on fire, and any final questions? Because this is our kickoff. We spent a lot of time talking about 46, but we also had comp plan in there, not comp plan, but our compensation in there. We had all those kind of stuff. All of that. Any questions on any of the other things that were discussed? Commissioner Farnsworth.
In 2027, are we purchasing a police substation? Is that the plan?
The year isn't defined. The $325,000 is a placeholder for purchasing land for a future police department, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen in 2027.
Okay. And what's a repave drive axle?
That's
Or,
drive aisle that's repaving the street that's in the cemetery.
Okay. And a zero-turn lawnmower costs $15,400?
Yes, sir. That's state contract
Not at
pricing.
Lowe's, they don't?
It's ridiculous.
let's say, where you been? Do you mow your own yard?
He's stuck in the 90s.
If we get two Zoll cardiac monitors for $50,000,
50-foot lots.
We get
look a lot
one, I
better.
believe.
just one?
We do have a grant application in for that we are hopeful we'll get, but
Are those for the fire truck? Or
Yes, sir.
Are they, okay. Do they not have a Zoll monitor now?
I'll defer to the fire chief, deputy fire chief.
Mr. Farnsworth, the fire department has one that belongs to Alachua County. Basically, they've given it to us as part of the agreement. There's in negotiation still right now that's ongoing that we could possibly get a second one. If one goes down, we have nothing. We can't be an ALS service. We can't offer our service. We also have a grant application in to receive one. There is no word. We thought we might have heard by now, probably within the next couple months until we get if we get that grant or not. So the one we own does not belong to us.
Okay.
And money, they
What
got
was that?
they got
Which piece was that?
It's the
It's
Zoll
a Zoll,
cardiac
it's a-
monitor.
they got you a golf cart in here too.
Where's that?
EMS golf cart.
That's what I need. Okay,
This year. So it's all the way out to 28.
that's pretty much, those are the questions I had.
Dallas, do you know, when is the skate park moving into a funded project?
It is.
This year?
In,
Design funded this year,
correct.
construction funded next year?
Well, we're going to attempt to apply for grants for FERDAP. It should
Right.
be a fairly highly eligible FERDAP grant, so
And
yes, design is in this year.
Jamie, what's the newest lie about when we're going to get our dump truck?
October?
That's the newest, October? Okay, all right.
And in October.
But that's
till
funded.
December. Yeah, I mean, the PO's been written for a year and a half now, right?
Your turn.
I learned fast, yeah.
Salespeople, I'll be here in April, so you call them in April, I'll be here in October, I said, well, what's the next flight?
We did get the bucket truck, though.
All right, other questions for our general? Okay, I think that's what everybody needs to do, have conversations with Dallas, Mike, Jamie, right? And let's come Monday, kind of moving towards a decision.
Mr. Mayor, just in concluding comments, we didn't want to kill you by going through an 8-page report, line item by line item, but this is a 5-year CIP, and what's in 25 is what is proposed in the budget that we have balanced, and they're categorized by department. So, the last one is streets and roads. If you want to look in there currently, we have 10 million proposed funded in the budget, including 6 million for the Southwest 46. So if you want to see other projects, there's 4 million total in other road projects included in the budget as it was presented. And I just noticed the next line item down is that there's 16 million in capital expenditure proposed out of your general fund. Does not include CRA projects, does not include utility projects. You'll see those at the next budget hearing, budget workshop. We'll have that discussion. But a lot of good information about what's proposed in this year's budget included in this packet that we handed out as backup. That
Thank you, sir.
concludes my comment.
Madam Clerk, you have any final comments? All right. Any other staff have any final comments? You sat here the whole time and did a good job. Commissioner, any final comments? All right, we are adjourned.